Yeah, Perfect Legacy Promotions presents Bread Magazine with my special guest, Chris Todd. He's an investigator and producer of the O.J. Simpson story and a lot of other great stuff. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you got going on.
Sure. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on your show. So my name's Chris Todd. I'm an investigative producer here in Los Angeles, and I work famous murder cases and some civilian cases. And I wrote a couple books, that they're online now. I just kind of have them sitting here, but so those are on Amazon. One's called If We Did It, and the other's called Ron's Revenge. And those deal with the O.J. Simpson accomplice, Charlie, as he's been called previously in the past by O.J. himself and other characters inside the story. And I've come to basically talk about his journey and my journey and how those crossed. And I'm appreciative to be here, and hopefully your fans will like, some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about today.
Okay, well, we're definitely glad to have you here with Bread Magazine. So, get in. So, what has been your most successful story that you covered?
It's funny you said that because today is November 29th, and it's actually the anniversary of Natalie Wood. Natalie Wood died on November 29th, 1981. And I worked that case for 4 years. And that's what a lot of people know me from, is the Natalie Wood story. I also wrote a screenplay about it called Splendor, where I solved Natalie Wood's murder. I worked the Aaron Hernandez story also, and that was probably more popular than Natalie Wood. So I was on both of those stories before I was able to come on the OJ accomplice story.
Okay. How did it come about that you basically started with the O.J. Simpson story? Like, how did you become like the lead investigator for that particular story?
Sure. So when I work projects, whether as a producer, writer, actor, director, I've been in Hollywood for about 25 years. I do different roles, so I wear different hats. But the one theme that always carries over is I'm usually the main person involved in the story, okay? And so it's my angles, it's my investigation. People kind of work around me. And I do have a lot of people that I work with. I have over 10 partners. Some of them are accomplices in murders. Some of them are victims and the families. Some are witnesses that never wanted to speak. And I was lucky enough basically to know someone that comes from a mafia background. And I was able to meet the O.J. Simpson accomplice. At first, the project was brought to me. I was not allowed to meet Charlie. I didn't know Charlie's last name. I didn't know much about him at all. And I think a lot of people don't either. So that was 3 years ago. So I've been on this story for 3 years. And there's been a lot of ups and downs, and it's kind of like a roller coaster ride. And, it taught me a lot about life, not about OJ and Charlie and Johnny Cochran and Robert Shapiro and Marcia Clark and all the players. And I did reach out to most of them. I spoke to a lot of them over my 3 years. Some of the secretive witnesses too, Tommy Tallarino, Jill Shively, Robert Heidstra's team and people. And so there's still people that are alive from the story, obviously, and OJ's still alive and lives in Las Vegas. And Charlie's still alive too, and he lives on the East Coast. So I basically knew someone that knew him, and then I was brought in to kind of open up my Rolodex and basically introduce them to Hollywood studios in the hopes of selling their script, the tape. I have a script here. His script is inside here. I'm the only person that has a copy of it. And there's also a tape that he made, and that's even harder to kind of come by right now. That's with our attorneys. So that's how I got it basically. And then I kind of ran with it myself. I kind of put my own twist on it. In the beginning, I was basically kind of kowtowing to them. I did what they said. I kind of turned the tables, and I wrote these books, and I came forward on my own, basically is what I did, sort of like a disgruntled employee in a way, right? But kind of a whistleblower at the same time.
So, what active role did Charlie have in the O.J. Simpson case?
So do you remember when OJ wrote a book called If I Did It?
I heard about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So OJ had confessed that he had an accomplice in 2006. And most people don't know that because the book was shelved, it was shredded. There was an interview with Judith Regan that was shelved. No one ever saw that till 2018. Most people never read the book, they couldn't stomach it. They could never get to chapter 6. Well, if people had read chapter 6 of his book, If I Did It, they would have heard OJ talk about Charlie and how on June 12th, 1994, Charlie came over to Rockingham to talk to OJ about something. Okay. I can get into that a little bit more, but it's a, you know, it's an illegal type of thing. And that kind of set OJ off like a time bomb. And like other reporters have said, OJ had a tornado of stuff in his head. And Charlie lit the fuse. He said a couple things that he shouldn't have said at that moment. OJ's waiting for a plane, right? No one likes to get on airplanes. And he's chipping golf balls in his front yard. And he tells you that in chapter 6. In the Judith Regan interview, he also tells you this, and you get to hear him, you know, talk about it firsthand. So it's basically already come out that there was an accomplice in 2006. It's just no one knows that. There's only a select few people. What I have is I actually have Charlie and the story about him. He never corroborated the story till 2018, 2017. So he came forward to producers basically trying to sell his life rights.
So basically, by him coming forward saying that he was an OJ accomplice, would they be able to charge him with being an accomplice, or does the statute of limitations come in after that particular incident?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. There's no statute of limitations on murder in any state. And yes, of course, he could go to jail. And the fun part the reason I like this case and the story and this investigation so much is you think it's that simple, right? If somebody came forward and goes, I was with OJ, I was there. I watched the murders or I took place in the murders. You'd say, oh, he's going to go to jail. What an idiot. Not so fast. See, OJ Simpson can't be tried again, right? You can't touch him. So you can't even make him testify against Charlie. So who do you have that's going to testify, and what evidence do you have that puts Charlie at 875 Bundy at 10:35 p.m. at night? Yeah. Not much, right? Right? Inside the evidence, inside the trial evidence, which is in a bunch of boxes at the LAPD, okay, it is in there. The truth is there. The evidence is there. They shielded everybody from the real story. It was a total ruse. That's why we call it the fraud of the century. They call the trial of the century. No, it was a fraud. And everyone was in on it in their own ways. Some didn't really know they were doing it all the time. But if we say, oh, which knife did he use? And where's the knife? And well, we'll show you. Look at the evidence. Look at the size of the cut marks. What size are they? Match them up. There were 2 different coroners. They had a guy called Dr. Irwin Golden at first. They kicked him off the case and they brought in a guy named Dr. Lakshmanan. Okay. Why would you remove the coroners? Because the first coroner said there's 2 knives. And Marcia Clark didn't like that. And so they molded. Jill Shively hates Marcia Clark. Look up who Jill Shively is. And I know Jill. And, you know, she's still bitter after all these years, and I would be too. She was an eyewitness, almost an eyewitness to the murder. She did not testify. They didn't even use her, okay? There were a lot of people like that. Where was Faye Resnick? Why didn't Faye Resnick testify? Where's A.C. Cowlings? Why didn't he testify? See, you have to kind of come at it from a side angle, right? You got to flank it. You can't walk straight into it. You'll never see it.
Okay, that's a very interesting dynamic. We're definitely glad to have you here at B.R.E.A.D Magazine. It was one more case that you said you want to touch on. I think it was it Elliot something? So it was another case.
Emmett Till story?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just, you know, if you have, you know, if your audience is African-American or based somewhere in that arena, then it's an interesting story about Emmett Till and Mamie Till and the Hollywood discrimination against that family for 65 years. And And I've been part of the project for 5 years. And then the people before me were there for 15 years. And so it's just basically a story about how Hollywood kind of steals stuff from people, and especially people of color, females, minorities. And I didn't like that very much. And so I fought these people for years in lawsuits, and there were criminal investigations, and we did a lot of stuff to stop them from stealing the project. So, we're still fighting that battle every day, but I think, if everyone, remembers Emmett Till and Mamie Till and their journey, and we're kind of see it today, you can look out your window and they say Emmett Till's name a lot, and we just like to see the story told the correct way. And we'd like for Hollywood to do it with the family and the estate involved.
Now, does he still actually have like family that's still living and they know what happened, or like, so you just saying like that Hollywood manipulated the story, but they're trying to get like the real story told?
Yeah, well, because Hollywood had tried to troll different versions. We call it trolling public domain. Mm-hmm. So, there's certain laws, and families have rights. You have to be dead for like 75 years, and there's all these rules, and they never fell into those rules. Hollywood likes to make up their own rules to benefit themselves. And so we kind of caught them doing it a couple times, and we stopped them. And, there's other people trying to tell Emmett Till's story and Mamie Till's right now. I hold Mamie Till's original script. I'm the only one that has a copy. So like I said, when I get on a project, I'm the main person that I'm holding the rights, and I'm holding the script or the person or the family. So, and they had different stories. They had Simeon's story. They had different offshoots of some of the cousins had wanted to tell their story about the kidnapping of Emmett Till. And so that was their right, but just the way things went down, we had to protect the Till estate, which is, there's a family and estate that goes back many generations. And Mamie Till's journey is an important one. And
I'm not really familiar too much about their story. Like, what was the story that happened with them? I'm familiar with the name, but not so much the story.
Yeah, Emmett Till was killed in 1955. He was a 14-year-old boy from Chicago, Illinois, who had traveled to Money, Mississippi in 1955. And he was subsequently kidnapped, tortured, and murdered by the KKK. His mother fought for him, and her name was Mamie Till. Mamie Till is one of the first African-American women to be in the public eye and to have the attention of the President of the United States, Dwight Eisenhower. The story basically is the crossroads of the Black story in America. It's like the modernized, or, they say, oh, slavery ended in 1864. Well, it really didn't. It ended in 1955. And so that crossroads that year, and then you have people like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. Rosa Parks sat in the front of the bus because of Emmett Till. So that he was like an indirect spark to the civil rights movement, and his killers were acquitted. So that was kind of the big shock of it. If those two guys went to jail, you wouldn't even probably know about it. We wouldn't even be talking about it. So the fact that they were acquitted, both of them, and everybody knew they did it, and they had partial confessions from them. And so, yeah, it's today they say, oh, you got Emmett Till. They say this when a Black man gets killed by the police or some type of protest or something happens. Well, he got Emmett Tilled. You can say the Karen. That's Emmett Till. That was a white woman who said he whistled at her, and so they murdered him. Okay, he was 14 years old. So it's a very powerful story. It's never been told. They've done documentaries. They never did the scripted version, and that's what we work with.
Okay. So is there any other subject that you want to touch upon and tell the audience about, or any of the stories, interesting stories that you want to talk about?
The Aaron Hernandez story was a cool story. Natalie Wood, I'd love for people to kind of pay attention to Natalie Wood and know that she was murdered, and Hollywood blocked her story. Hollywood blocked the real Aaron Hernandez story. These are stories that I own the rights to. And someday Hollywood hopefully will listen to me and let me tell my stories. I suggest check out my book, and I offer to your fans a free copy. If you email me, my email, right? I'll give you my email, and you can post it up. Okay. They can have a free copy. I'm not charging any money. I'll send you the digital copies of these. They're on Amazon. And
Okay.
I say, check them out and get to know the truth on O.J. Simpson, because I think it's something we all should put to bed. I'm really like kind of tired of people kind of trolling Ron and Nicole, and like they're still doing it today. There's a big to do with Charlotte Kirk and NBC and this whole story. And some of my mentors are involved in that. And it's time to tell the truth. It's time for Hollywood to make right, do real stories. And you have to fight for them. Yeah. Sometimes there's blowback. Sometimes there's lawsuits. And like Gary Webb said, great journalism causes lawsuits. That's what it does.
That's definitely right. So did you get to interview Ron at all? Like, what affiliation did Ron have in the O.J. Simpson trial?
Well, I'm talking about the victims, you know, Ron and Nicole, who were murdered by O.J. and Charlie.
Okay.
Yeah, I know their families. I know the Browns. I know the Goldmans. And, you know, it's been hard for them to understand what I'm doing, because I had to kind of give Charlie an out. You know, people always ask me, oh, say his last name, tell us where he lives. You'll figure it out, you know, and we're talking about his life too. If he came forward, and I feel he's courageous to come forward and even say this stuff, risking his life in jail, right? Even if he's sick or he's dying, or all these mob guys are always dying and then they live 30 more years. Okay. Yeah. I believe he's courageous for coming forward. Let him tell his story. Don't ask too much, right? He doesn't want to say too much about the actual murders themselves, but that's why I say it. That's why I say it in the books. I say what he can't say, you know?
Okay. Well, we have B.R.E.A.D Magazine with my special guest, Mr. Chris Todd. So tell everybody where they can find you at on social media and how they can get a copy of your book. And we're definitely glad that you can be a part of B.R.E.A.D Magazine, which this will be available on B.R.E.A.D TV and Smile World TV as well.
Awesome. Great. My email is investigatorla19@gmail.com. investigatorla19@gmail.com. Anyone can email me anytime to talk to me. I'm on Facebook. Chris Todd is my stage name. I don't want to give out my real name in a second, but you can email me. And if you want to get to know me, I'll show you who I am. Also, like I said, I'll give free copies of the books. And I think on Instagram, I am rogue_producer 15 is my handle on Instagram. And you can look me up, and, you know, I'm grateful. I like talking to people one-on-one too. I really do. I'm kind of the anti-Hollywood. You want to talk to me? I'll talk to you. I'm right here.
All right. Well, we're definitely glad to have you here with B.R.E.A.D Magazine doing this exclusive interview. And we thank you for being a part of it, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.